I'm truly happy that I'm here with you this afternoon. I wish to thank, of course, the organizing committee for this kind of invitation, all those who contributed to this amazing event that I believe will pave the way towards a new qualitative dialogue. So allow me to start with my topic. So please, the first slide. Oh, I'm the one who's supposed to change slides. Thank you. So why are we discussing about artificial intelligence where then can actually displace human minds? Now, two reasons. Although present AI, which founded in machine learning, has clarified a significant part of human intelligence, the supporters of this so-called general artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence are certain that soon they also provide a date by 2030. Emotions, consciousness, and free will be included in AI. So it's a different thing, AI, artificial general intelligence, and powerful artificial intelligence. The first one is acceptable. It is so-called artificial intelligence that the second believes that they can actually substitute humans, and the third one that will exceed the capacities of humans, and humans. This is also related to transhumanism. But if we follow the supporters of artificial general intelligence, they do believe that the truth is that the matter is the essence of reality and that mechanical is the hypostasis of reality. These are the terms that I used according to, let's say, equivalent theological terms. This is how they think and believe that they will substitute theological perception. So the second reason why we talk about artificial intelligence is that the supporters of the artificial superintelligence expect that the transhuman will lead humanity to the next evolutionary step. And let's say the culture of the transhumanist that we live right now is a preparation towards this perspective. So we shall see the reasons why this perspective is actually promoted. So what do we mean by nous, mind? Now, to avoid all the theoreticians and theoretical approaches, mind or brain is a software running in our brain, the so-called organic processor. Whatever is responsible for this processor to operate, so I see my mind as a processor, so we call it nous. How do we know that nous, mind, is a software? Well, if nous, mind, is not a software, then the discussion stops right now. Okay, it's all about philosophy and theology. But if I do say that nous is a software, I can continue the dialogue with the supporters of artificial intelligence. Do we know the software called nous, mind? Well, we know some of its capacities and applications of nous, of mind. The mechanism of mental functions are understood constantly via neurophysiology and genetics. So we cannot afford not referring to neurophysiology and genetics. I guess the previous speaker provided these examples. So for which mental functions do we know how the mechanism operates? Now I know the mechanism, I understand the mechanism, it means that I can also, let's say, manufacture this mechanism. So we have available software right now for inference, decision-making, abstraction, generalization and discrimination, problem-solving, classification, summarization, translation, search, and text editing, images, sound. These things can take place right now. You can simply buy the software. So what are the benefits of AI? Well, fast processing of big data that we produce as humans. How big data? How much big data? Much more than the bits needed for the DNA. 10 to the 23 bytes. So in other words, 1 and 23 zeros. I don't know if you can grasp the figure. So human brain can actually have sound and image for 300 years. This is how much it can actually save and stock. So those who believe that are immortals, probably they should, let's say, get a microchip. So if I want to show the graph with a duplication rate of human information production, so you can see the up to 900, there was nothing interesting taking place, let's say, in human information production. The first doubling took place in the 50s. Why? Because we had, of course, books that were published. And of course, this is how we managed to double the knowledge production. And nowadays, every 1 or 2 hours, we double the produced human information. So we are invited to take decisions. But of course, to take decisions, we need to take into consideration this data. Do we have the time? Can we do it? Absolutely impossible. So we did create machines that can do that for us. This is what computers are for. And what data do they have? Whatever has been already digitized. And anything that can be found on the internet, where there is such a duplication, let's say. So, how can mind and intelligence be simulated? So, the mathematical is a network with, of course, neurons and intelligence as mechanical learning. So, this model was created by combining knowledge from physics with observations of the function of human mind and neurophysiology. I provide some literature, some references, there are some classical papers. I'm not going to get into such details, but still, you can find the references below. Now, the Nobel Physics this year, a month ago, was offered to Hopfield and Hinton. Hopfield had studied some mathematical models of magnets in mechanical learning. The classical models, magnet is seen in this bipole, which you would, of course, you can have the orientation, and then you can predict the magnetic features of different materials. So they said that the human brain works as such, and the connection between neurons follow the law of Hebb that he identified from psychology and neurophysiology, which says that when two neurons connect better together, they have a greater synapse. The synapse is stronger. And this empirical, let's say, hypothesis was then transferred as a mechanism in the operation of the neuronic network. It is rather simplistic if you think about it, but back then this transfer was not that easy to transfer physics into intelligence. In other words, the architecture of the neural net has 3 layers, as we say. The input layer, where data is inserted. The output layer that produces the result, of course. And the inner layer, the hidden layer, where, of course, all the data processing takes place. This is, of course, as you understand, works in the image of the human brain. In other words, the input layer is, of course, the sensory area. This is where everything comes from, the eye, our ears. Then we see the output layer where we have the intelligence, the motor area. This is where we have the religious feeling, let's say, emotions, and the output is taking place with the motor area. So, in other words, this is the mathematical model that it was used, and it is in use actually right now. So we have 3 layers, 3 different parts. So we have never been able to identify any problem in this actual model. It is a well-functioning model. So how a memory is registered and how they can be represented in the neural network. In physics, we talk about energy of the magnetic network of the mathematical model, where we combine magnets. If you try to imagine the energetic field, you will see something similar. So by changing the energetic field, this landscape changes. So such image produced by this ball, when it actually dances in this landscape, is a footprint of the information in the neural network. It is rather easy, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very easy. Does it work? 100%. 100% is functioning for the scope and the reasons we have already been discussing. So this image comes from the paper by the Nobel Committee, where they try to explain how we can codify the letters in tangible terms. But of course, to implement this thing is not something easy. It's something very sophisticated, and of course, under patent. In other words, we cannot actually show how these operate, how these change. We talk about a huge amount of money, to be honest. So what are the learning strategies which are involved in AI? Okay, we are not that imaginative. We just took what we learned from high school, university, from primary school, so grammar school. So you say that we have the supervised learning in elementary school, for instance. We have the unsupervised learning, especially high school. At the university, we bring them closer to the reality. In other words, you try to have a prediction, you make comparison with reality, and then if the answer fits, that's okay. Otherwise, you need to correct your initial assumption. This is the so-called reinforcement learning. And if the problem is such difficult, nobody wants to take responsibility, you simply set a committee of neural networks that connect between them, and they do make decisions. So the question is, what is the difference between chess and Go that the previous speaker mentioned earlier? The difference is that in chess, there was a learning that took place. In Go, they just added two such mechanisms, as if they were adversaries, opponents. They taught them and provided the instructions, and they learned the strategies by themselves. That's a huge difference. It was the first time that the machine of artificial intelligence had actually two neural networks that were competing one against the other. It's the same with ChatGPT, with the generative intelligence, in other words. On the one hand, we collect data, and the other one makes, any distinction. So in other words, you do have two different neural networks with different objectives. So the deep intelligence, which is applied in practice, in real terms, has many different neural networks. Each one is programmed differently, in other words, to perform different tasks. That is why you have greater efficiency. So, if Nous, or mind, is a software, do we know the mechanism of consciousness, of emotions, of creative imagination, of free will? We do not know this mechanism, but we can create softwares that can simulate all of the above. So the question is, can we have consciousness? Yes or no? Now, allow us to see whether there are some mathematical limitations for the construction of the consciousness software. Penrose, he says, as a recipient of Nobel, that you cannot create such a thing because consciousness requires and demands things that are limited by the theorem of Kete. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to make such references, but anyhow, you can have a look at my link afterwards. So the classic intelligence has limitations. Quantum intelligence, does it have some new features, new skills, new capacities that we have not been able to find in the classic AI? Yes. The key word, or the key resource of quantum intelligence is the fact that if you have two quantic systems and they are intertwined, they create memories. Just like a couple that gets a divorce and still one remembers the other. But this thing doesn't have an, let's say, as Einstein said, it is not a material connection. This connection, nobody actually knows, but What we can say is that via this connection, we can interpret what James and other psychologists qualified as interweaving of thoughts. In other words, via two thoughts, you can create a third thought in your brain where the two initial thoughts lose their, let's say, identity. This is something, the so-called entanglement, is something really nice. And of course, we can actually understand it quite easily. Where can we incorporate this thing? Do you know what is the mechanism of entanglement? No, we do not know. But it has been proved that when two people, feelings, you think they do operate in a tunnel, well, this can be entanglement. So this is something which is published, but we do not have the appropriate experiments. So quantum observation is the second way to calculate things, but up to now we observe what we think that exists and we store it. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm going to finish up. So what we store changes, and it actually changes what we believe as being the reality, in other words, our perception. So the observation actually defines reality. So how it is verified that an AI possesses consciousness? Via the Turing test. Well, you know that you can say that this has been widely discussed. Has ever managed this test? No. So for the moment, there is no artificial intelligence that can do a conscious, let's say, processing. Because those who believe in artificial intelligence expect that the construction of a conscious AI soon. Well, they expect that they will understand the complexity of the neural network. In other words, the hidden layers. So why this is so popular in discussion? I will just say the following. Just please 2 minutes. They believe that the so-called enhanced human may also be frozen, waiting to survive digitally as the self-baptized, says one of the pioneers of transhumanism, the so-called FM 2030. He changed his name, it's not a male-female, he changed his name to FM 2030. He's frozen, and he waits to be resurrected. Ladies and gentlemen, behind the so-called transhuman and artificial intelligence, we have the word big business. What does big business mean? Well, it means that $13 trillion are the 7 big companies. The GDP of Germany, France, UK, Italy is around $12 trillion. So I was saying to the Metropolitan of Messager, that's the Metropolitan, so supporters of AI, they don't care. They look for money. The only interest is money. There's not an ideological issue, or they do not try to tell us and teach us and preach us a new religion. Now, what are the 3 risks right now? I'm not going to insist. Allow me just to say that in June, for the first time, humanity has a regulatory framework. The UN and the United States don't have a regulatory framework. So it is the duty of the Church and of any man of spirituality to exercise the proper pressures to politicians to define the activities of AI with the 5 layers of risk as defined in this EU regulation. So the issue of man transforming into a machine can be addressed with spiritual teaching to understand that actually God and man are each other's paradigms, examples. So 2 prophecies that I got right from the Metropolitan of Messager, saying, so let's imagine they can find consciousness in the human brain. Well, in this case, I will try to find the programmer, the genetic programmer. How this one penetrated this whole thing. I'll ask Mr. Adonarakis. So let's say that part of the consciousness is beyond our brain. So guys, let's be serious. Prayer and liturgy are protocols to discuss with God. As simple as that. Thank you.